Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Gray Area. I am Mr. Bennett. I am tag team with Grooming and Reviews. Thank you again, once again, for joining us for another Sunday evening for a discussion on comparing the gray area. I mean, I am an ADOS black man in America. Grooming and Reviews is a white Greek man also in America, and we've been having a series of shows over the successive weeks talking about just the differences between our cultures and where they mesh, the gray area, the common ground that unites both of us as human beings. So again, we thank you so much for joining us tonight for another, hopefully, an insightful discussion this evening. On this podcast. Again, as you can see on the bottom, you can see our cash apps that are scrolling above, below the screen. Again, we'd appreciate any support that you may give us, but most importantly, again, for the BMU network. I mean, if you want to drop a cash app in support of the network, certainly feel free to do so as well. We're so delighted that, again, everyone's getting ready for Monday. We know work days and everything is tough. Had a long weekend, but again, we appreciate you guys wanting to hang out with us. And as the night goes on, sure more people will certainly filter in, but we're just grateful that you're on the ride with us. So again, let me introduce again my broadcast partner, Grooming and Reviews, aka the Ghost of Sparta, aka Peter, aka Yasu.
What is going on,
Hello,
bro? Oh, wow. I'm impressed, actually. I am very impressed. I gotta give you credit.
I'm trying, man. I'm trying. I'm trying to get my Greek down. So now, again, if I was a single man, if I went to Greek, and if I started dropping some of these words, what kind of success rate would I have? You think out there?
Shocked, and they're like, "Wow, he actually is learning. He's excellent learning." And it depends on what kind of Greek you talk to. There's some Greeks who want to fuck with you so bad, like say echo.
I'm talking about the ladies again. If I was a single man going to Greece and I was able just to have a
be impressive,
crude vocabulary, but just to kind of make my way around. But what percentage would you say of Greeks even speak English? Is it majority of the country you think is 90% English speaking or understand 90%? So
yes.
So I'd be able to even that I'll probably be able to get by.
With the 90% is the question is how well is English? Don't forget, we have a lot of slang word. Because last time I went to Greece, my cousin was taking the English class and he goes, "Oh, in her college is part of one of the college." I'm like, I teach a class better than these son of bitches I go to her.
Right.
She goes, I walked in the class and I'm me being a smart ass. I start talking to her like I know, like, yo, what's up? And she goes, she's like, what? And she was like looking at me like, what? I'm like, I throw all these slang words, like, all this stuff. And she was like scratching her head, like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
So there's definitely now, is there a Greek, and that's going to be part of our conversation tonight. Is there a slang, a Greek American slang versus a Greek slang? That's okay. We're going to get into that tonight. Tonight's show, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be dealing with the idea of Americanization. So just to contrast to last week's show, and again, this is where Peter, he's basically going to be driving most of the discussion. I'm going to be sort of the interviewer, the Q&A person tonight. I'll drop a perspective when I can. But the idea of going back to your old country and basically seeing how the country has changed since the last time he's been. So Peter, you've been there about 2 or 3 times, I think, since you came as a child, went there as a child, and you've certainly seen some of the changes. So we talked about how just some of the on the local and some of the businesses, like you don't have like the local shops and bars the way you do. You have more like malls and shopping areas and whatnot, so that you don't have that sort of nostalgic kind of intimate experience as you might have had when you were there. And obviously with the use of social media and things that are going on. So any other reflections on that before we move on? Because I know you said you might reach out to some guys who are in Greece to talk about.
So I did reach out to a buddy of mine who lives in Carlisle, originally from New York, moved to Carlisle. Unfortunately, Sunday is his bad night. He could not make it tonight. He wanted to make it really bad. So I'm trying to figure out a way how we can get him. Maybe we can have a video. Maybe we can do a pre-recorded one day with him or something, like a small clip or something.
Absolutely.
I'm playing with him right now, so not literally, but you know what I mean. I'm playing with ideas with him. But I do have a funny story for everybody tonight. You're gonna laugh your ass. I've been holding his back. So Wednesday, my mom, we have a phone line, a landline still in the house to call Greece. It's a little cheaper.
Okay.
and she
What's
was
your plan? Is there like an American plan, like Verizon or whatever? Who gives you the best rate to call
yeah,
over there?
company, and she's arguing back and forth. We add money as we need it.
Hmm.
So she's got tired. She goes, "I want a phone. All right, give me a cell phone, whatever." I've been telling her for a while now. It's cheaper through T-Mobile. It's only $15, unlimited talking tax agrees. That's it. On top of what you pay. She goes, "Okay, cool, got it." So I talked to him. Cool. I got you set up. I gave me like a week or two. I'll get you a phone. I'll get you a old flip phone. She goes, "Huh?" I'm like, what's wrong with the iPhone? Do I look like a goddamn dinosaur? She goes, I want an iPhone. I'm like, what the hell is this bitch talking about an iPhone? Where the hell did you learn how to word an iPhone? Goes, simple. At Last TV. I'm like, oh Jesus, fucking Greek TV's gonna get me fucking broke. An iPhone. She's not getting an iPhone, but she's getting a phone, but
Right,
not an iPhone because last thing I need her to fucking butt dial, freaking or FaceTime people her ass. That's the last thing I need.
right, right,
So anyway, let's
right.
get into it, brother.
All right, all right. So again, in contrasting, first of all, let me just say shout out to the chat who is with us tonight. I know my man Trey Ferg. Appreciate you for dropping in tonight and always supporting us in this in this show. So appreciate you. Salute to you for coming by tonight. And again, just looking forward to other folks who are going to feel free to drop in through tonight. So again, we appreciate you joining us. So again, contrasting, like I said, to last week, how has Greek changed? But what I want to talk about tonight are the ways in which Greeks or Greek Americans, how you have changed. In other words, how different you may be from those who are still native Greeks in terms of, and this happens for a lot of different communities. So you have Italian Americans, Asian Americans, Indian Americans, and I'm talking about the Indians from India, uh, you know, African, really African Americans. I mean, we really want to use the term properly. I mean, those who came from African countries, so Nigerian Americans or Ghanaian Americans or what have you. I mean, obviously, there's values that, just being a part of society. I mean, a lot of these groups fight to keep their cultural purity in many ways, but there is an adaptation that happens here, especially once you have kids. It's very difficult. And so many times I've shared in the past stories about folks who came from other countries, Sierra Leone being the most recent, where they've had the kids have a different mindset than that of the community. So the kids, they appreciate the culture, they appreciate the family, all the cousins they have, and just the base culture that they were able to take advantage of. But they're not necessarily as interested in trying to replicate it. They don't necessarily want to marry early or marry necessarily traditionally, Sierra Leonean men. They want to be able to choose their own men, and they just have their values and just the way they see the world is much more American now that they've been exposed to it for some time. So I certainly see it with young people. Certainly with if you're like a Gen Zer, you certainly have you may have adopted different values than that of your parents. But even for those who've been here for a while, who lived in America, if become a have you are you an American citizen? I have
Yes,
you
I am.
okay.
I
So for
became
those
dual.
who
Go
yeah,
ahead.
you said right. I think you said last week you have dual citizenship, correct?
Yes, that's what I was gonna remind everybody. I have dual citizenship. So I got my citizenship as I came into the country because my parents were already dual citizens. I was born in Greece, but I get it automatically through my parents.
Right, right, right. So you have that privilege, and again, people who've been here for a while, some people choose not to get it, for the sake of, they'll have their work visa or their green card, but some people have no interest in obtaining a U.S. citizenship, even if it's a dual. And see people make the sacrifice, especially back if you go back 100 years ago, when you had those large waves of immigration that came to the country. There was much more of a drive to become essentially American. So for a lot of people, they changed their names, for example. So like you go by Peter, and yeah, I know your Greek name is Panagiotis,
Mhm.
but the I'm sorry, Panagiotis. I
You
can't. I
get a kick
can't.
out of it.
It doesn't sound right unless I say it that way. I can't just say it just off the top. Hey yo, Panagiotis. No, I have to put the Sparta in there in order to make it sound right. It doesn't come out quite as well. But more than likely, someone at the immigration office might have said, "Hey, I'm not pronounced. How do you pronounce that, Pontius? Oh, fine. We'll name him Peter." And that's what they used to do. They would literally, you would get an American name when you came to Ellis Island or wherever you came from. They would give you an Americanized name and sort of start you off from there. So there was a desire for immigrants to become as American as possible. So they changed their names, they adopted American values and things of that nature. And they still had some of the social and cultural traditions, but again, compared to those from what they used to call the old country,
Mhm.
very different uh, way in terms of how you see the world. So want to explore some of that tonight over various different topics or subject matters, and you can help to contrast. But more so, this is going to
So
be yeah,
let me cut you off for a second.
sure thing.
You're a big Bruce Lee fan like I was. So Bruce Lee
Yes,
was originally born in America. A lot of people don't
yeah,
even know
San
that.
Francisco. Yeah, 1940,
Yes,
San Francisco.
thank you.
Yes,
So they gave him Bruce, the name that stands for, I believe, Little Dragon in
was
Chinese.
it Lee Sulong?
Yes,
That's
thank
his
you.
that's his official name on his his Asian name is Lee Sulong.
Yeah. So when he came back to our country, he was living there for years and years and years. That's what a good example of what you were saying is a lot of people give American names to become American, maybe easier. There are a
Right,
lot of, I think a couple of my Indian buddies have no more American, Jack, John, whatever. And all of a
right,
sudden they had
right.
this huge big last name. And, like, I'm like, holy shit! I don't like my name was
Yeah,
bad. Again,
yeah.
I'm not trying to knock anybody. I'm just using that as an
Right, right.
example.
But I think that's changed over the years. I mean, so it's,
Starting to.
no problem, no problem. So the contest I'm drawing is like I said back then. Like I said, if you go back to the 1920s when you had those big waves of migration to the United States, the big expansion in the early part of the 20th century. You would have people. So again, if you came from Greece, if you had like a long Greek last name or something, you might shorten it or something that matter to make yourself more acceptable, in the country. But I think people now are a lot more bold about coming and preserving their names. I mean, it's like it's basically it's up to us as Americans. We have to get comfortable with in terms of how do you pronounce your name, and we're the ones who have to practice and whatnot. I remember Arnold Schwarzenegger when he came over. He was saying that yeah, there was a temptation in order to shorten his name, but he said, look, um, if I shorten my name to something else, people may forget it. But if I keep it the way it is, then if you actually know it, then you'll never forget it. And certainly, just the name itself. I mean, I don't know of any other Schwarzeneggers in the world, but the fact that he made his name one of the biggest, names ever, and everybody knows. In fact, even his first name. I mean, Arnold is sort of synonymous with him as well. So he made his name stick, and I think a lot of people now they're starting to um, believe that they don't have to necessarily become so Americanized when they get here. That there's also communities here, which probably wasn't here in the past, where there's enough of community and support to where they don't have to necessarily change their names. They don't necessarily have to even learn English. I mean, you have a lot of Latino communities in the country where it's like it's all Spanish speaking. Or if you in our area, Brighton Beach, New York, has a very large Russian population,
Hmm.
and you can get along fine living and working and operating in America without necessarily knowing the language because a lot of the businesses, a lot of the local community that you live in has that, has that support language wise. So you can have somebody, and again, if your kids go to American schools, they're going to learn English and everything anyway. So there's been plenty of times I've seen parents who, they'll be in the mall or whatever, and their kids are like interpreting everything. They're speaking to the person at the stand and just translating for their parents or whatnot. So the parents aren't necessarily as much in a hurry to learn English as before. So I think just the landscape of the idea of what it means to be an American, I think is a current conversation. Um, and that might be something I may want to pose to you. That might be my first question, actually. From your point of view, what does it mean to you personally, and if you want to share perspective from other Greek Americans, who you may know if you've had this conversation, what in your mind does it mean to be an American from an immigrant's perspective?
So I have a unique stance with this versus most Greeks.
Hmm.
When I say I'm proud, I am proud. In my other room, I have American flag hanging.
Mhm.
One side, and the other side I have Greek.
Mhm.
I have a plan of a tattoo become an American flag right over here with the American shoulder, the
Mhm.
M16.
Mhm.
It means the world to me because when I was growing up, I was lucky enough to grow up with Americans that was very proud. One of my really good friends who passed, his father was a veteran, fought in a couple wars. When you say badass, the guy did some crazy shit and but he got fucked up in the process.
Mm.
Great guy, and then my buddy went to the service. Then I met some other people. I'm like, there's something that is something's there. I couldn't put my finger on it. Is the whole part being volunteering that you want to serve the brotherhood.
Mhm.
I'm one of the few people who could not do that because of my disability. Because I couldn't pass the ASVAB. And it's nothing like I'm stupid or anything. It's that
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
back then it was a little different rules back then. It was like you had to take it in English, you had to score this. There is no waivers. Now I hear waivers for everything. You need long hairs in your religion? Waiver. You want a beer? Waiver. You want this? Waiver. I'm
Mhm.
like, that's now. But in the late 90s and early 2000s, right before 9/11, it was like a whole different world in the military. And I was lucky enough to look into it. And that's what became my passion of this country. The other part of it, Greece is one of the few people that you're allowed to say that, but to say in a paper like we do, we have the freedom of speech and the freedom to believe whatever religion we have. We don't have that in paper because we do it, but do we have that in paper? No,
Interesting. So you mean constitutionally, it's not, the free practice of religion or speech is not ingrained in a constitution, but people
correct.
do it. It's sort of like an unwritten
Rule, yeah,
grace, but
yeah.
it's not in the founding of the country that you have a right to. So having said that, can you be um arrested or possibly, let's say if there's a protest or something? I know there's been some things that have happened in Greece recently in terms of like gay marriage or what have you. If you protest that or what, I mean, are there consequences that can come from speaking out against the government or the officials or whatever? Like, what's the, what
On
is,
my knowledge, no. I've
okay.
seen people speak to it. I had a buddy of mine on one of the riots. I looked at him like, first of all, you're an idiot going to that, and second of all, like, you didn't get arrested. Like, why would I get arrested? He was questioning me when I asked that. Like,
Mm,
yeah, because he forgets where I live and where he lives. I see things in a different view versus he see things in a different view. Like he said, protesting was probably just you're not even a right, just being a human being and do the right
mhm,
thing.
right.
Us, we look at it a different way, and we say that's my right. Yeah, you're right, but how many people have died in the process giving you that right?
Hmm.
How many people have starved themselves? How many people have done so X, Y, and Z? I don't look at it as right. I look at it as a
Hmm.
privilege.
Hmm.
Just think about it. Like license, like driving is a privilege. It's not a right.
Yeah.
I consider freedom of speech a privilege. Same thing
Right.
if our Second Amendment right to carry arms. That's a privilege. It's not a right.
Right. Well, now you're gonna cross a lot of people when you say that though, because
I
it's
don't care.
it's I know. I'm just saying that's one of those sacred cows that for a lot of gun rights advocates and whatnot, especially for folks in the South and whatnot. It's like, it's like they
Listen,
were they
I'll
were
be the
born
first
with
one
a
to
gun.
admit I am pro guns. I'm always
Right.
been pro guns because
Hmm.
I'm a big believer being ready than not be ready. So
Sure.
when these let's say Russian, Chinese, whoever, or freaking Mars people coming down, cool, I'm ready. But I'm not gonna sit here and tell you at the same time, this is how it's supposed to be. Like I have said it out loud, I'll say it again. Gun laws don't fucking work. I'll
Mm.
leave it there and we'll move on from there.
Right. 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 So you were saying so but again, generally in Greece, people are free to assemble, free to protest, free to speak out. Um, uh, and I'm assuming there's also freedom of the press. Is the
Mhm.
press sort of like, free to write whatever they want, or are there like restrictions on what they can and can report on? Is there any kind of limitations on that?
The no restriction. Here's the funny part. Like a lot of things what we find out, I knew about 2 weeks in advance because
Mm,
I stream a lot of Greek news.
Right.
Everything they reported was because they have no filter. They literally can say whatever and however they want. It is
Hmm.
literally free for all.
Right.
So as I'm saying this and I'm watching this, I'm like, huh, this is interesting. I'm thinking to myself, like, yeah, this is this Greek TV talking shit. I'm thinking, all right.
Yeah.
Next thing I know, like they were talking about what was it? The Trump is going to lose an election, like the way that he did.
Hmm.
Next thing I know, like, son of a bitch, we're fucking right. They were like literally to the T almost. I'm like,
Mm.
how did they know that ahead of time? I'm like, or even better example, with the COVID virus.
Hmm.
They were reporting about it and like things they were saying. I was like, okay, they can't strike right so every time. I'm like,
Hmm.
shit, they were fucking right again because they have no filters, no guideline. Like here, depends which party you favor
For
is
sure.
you're going to report. If you're a Democrat or Republican, I'm going to favor this way, or I'm going this
Yeah.
way, or whatever.
Right.
They don't care about that. I mean, they will
Right.
report, or they're still doing the old school reporting news. What is right,
Right.
what
Right.
is wrong, and let's call it there.
That's great. I mean, that's really good. That's really good to hear that. So,
Yeah.
so getting back on to, like I said, the idea that people are, your definition of what an American is.
Hmm.
So again, so you started out by saying, again, as far as the military had a big impact on you, friends who are in the military, and the fact that we have a volunteer military. Now, I think in Greece, I think is military service. I think it's mandatory at some point.
Yes, is draft in effect still.
So
So
the
you get
draft is still.
yeah. So how the draft works is interesting to me because it's confusing at the same time. Because okay, so if you come out of high school and you're proving you're still going to school, okay, you can push it off. But
Mhm,
once you're done with your college, you have your college diploma right in your hand, right here. The
mhm,
next day, you're going to receive a letter. Like you have to report to the local police station to get your papers. They're just handing you a
mhm,
piece of paper. You read it, you go, and you follow the steps for the papers. Like you report
mhm,
to X, Y station. They will run some physicals, see where they're going to place you, and then tell you you're getting drafted 6 months from now. You're going to boot camp. Usually the
right,
parents go with you, say goodbyes because they're going to probably be months before they see you again.
right,
You're allowed to keep your cell phone, and if you're a smoker, cigarettes, of course.
mhm,
There's some effects. That's the difference about drafting versus us. When we go in, we are taking our phones away and everything. You're like one phone call, and I have a
exactly,
lot
yeah,
of
yeah, I know
friends,
that, yeah, right,
and it depends which branches. They have a little script they want you to read. You say
exactly,
X,
yep,
Y, and Z.
I've seen that
And
too,
I now it depends. I know the air, but my best friend CQ, his sister-in-law and sister brother-in-law all of them went to the Air Force, so four of them. And no script, like, hey, I'm good. What's going on? Hey, he's looking what I'm watching him saying this, like, shit. It wasn't like that when I went in.
mhm,
Mike, you got shot like how many years ago? He goes, yeah, but still, it was stricter. When his brother went in, it was literally the script to the T again. In
mhm,
Greece, they don't have the script. They don't have like if you have like say it's an R&R day, you want to go out, literally outside, grab a pack of cigarettes. There's a little store right outside camps. Come
mhm,
back in, you can chill for a little bit. They don't tell you don't leave far. You can. It's
mhm,
like outside area.
right,
It's a weird thing. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, yeah. So, so again, the volunteerism of the military, what else do you think, defines you as an American?
Our technology. Let's be straight up here. Our technology, the way we get our technology is so much accessible. The reason I say accessible is very easy. So say a cell phone. Let's use this iPhone or Ultra or GoPro, whatever. How hard is it for you to get a phone or any kind of tech right now, Paul? Let me ask you that question.
I'm sorry, where do I get what now from?
How hard is it to get a piece of tech in your hands?
Oh, instant. I mean, they're literally giving it to you. It's hard to go to. I can't even go to Costco without someone from AT&T or T-Mobile, something like that, coming up to me saying, "Hey, we'll give you 4 free iPhones if you sign up with us today," or whatever. So they're literally kind of
My
giving it to
point exactly. That's
you.
where I was going with this. So it's really rare to go down to the street. You say, "Damn, man, my phone broke." I'm like, "Hey, don't worry about it. I get one tomorrow in the mail." Like overnight it. Fuck that shit. No, it doesn't work like that in Greece. If you break your
Mhm,
phone, you have a phone. Now you gotta come up with the money and get a new one.
mhm,
The TV breaks. Oh man, now I gotta get a TV. The hassle of trying to find the right one. It's just a pain in the ass.
mhm.
The hassle is different in there. The volume is
Yeah,
different. I
All right.
do
So
miss the
X.
I was giving Greeks one thing. They're not stressed out like we are. Maybe
Mhm.
that's why they live longer than we do. But it's like they literally they go to work in the afternoon. I mean, the morning, the afternoon, they go out for the coffee. It doesn't matter you have money or not. They still go for the coffee, no matter what. And
Right.
that's another part of it about being American that I realize is different. You do stress about the bills. You do stress about uh the car payment, the car mortgage, all this stuff. But do we stress about that in Greece? No.
Right.
What are they gonna do? Take my house? That's what the answer I get. I know Greeks who live here and they get this big loan to put in their business, but they always put a little chunk away, not for rainy days, for them to go back to Greece for vacation. I'm
Right.
scratching my head like that makes no sense. Why would you get a business loan to go on vacation? See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
See the
Yeah.
difference right
You're gonna
now?
yeah. Let's contrast some of that because that may come
Mhm.
with just being American, just where our way of life here.
Yeah,
It
that's
may
true.
be just more stressful than it is to be
I keep it
in
there.
Greece or from other countries. But I really want. I'm asking you a very personal questions about. You say
I'm
you're
open book,
proud
brother.
to be an American,
Mhm.
and I want you to really flesh out like what that means. So again, you mentioned military, you mentioned access to technology, but what about like specific values or just attitude or free? And again, I don't want to load the questions for you, but
No, no,
what?
load them, load them. I liked it. This is a conversation why we started this. I want you
Yeah.
to literally fire me, fire
All
the
right. So
shots one by
again, I
one.
mean,
Okay,
your
let's go for
sense
this
of
one.
your
Yeah,
sense of freedom, because that's a big thing that I know that's a big selling point in America. America's you have freedom to do what you want or whatever, as opposed to other countries where you don't have that kind of freedom. Do you sense that um, you have more freedoms here to be an individual here versus being a national um, person, like to be Greek in Greece may be one level, but here you don't necessarily. I mean, if you want to be Greek here, you can if you want to. But if you want to be just an individual, I think America, I think, kind of gives you, at least they sell you on that you can be that also. Do you have that sense here that you're more allowed to be Peter or the ghost of Sparta here or grooming here than you would be in Greece? So I
absolutely.
want you to really hone in on that piece. What you snap your fingers, you're in Greece or you're in the US. What's the attitude? What's the mindset that's different being here that that solidifies for you I am an American? Because
I'm
because for me, I can't answer that question, at least not in the way that an immigrant could. I mean, again, the fact that I am an ADOS member, meaning an American descendant of slaves, as I talked about a few shows ago, my history essentially starts here, nearly 400 years ago. So I don't have any other references. There's some cultural things that may be tied to Africa that I can, kind of relate to in terms of the music and the foods and things of that nature that are, that common thread that unites those of African descent throughout the world. I mean, that piece is there, but I don't have that sense of, we were in America before America was a country. All right. So again, 1776 is when America became a nation. My ancestors were here in the country before that. So I don't. So my only reference is America. In terms of helping to actually build America as it is, part of its values and what it is. A lot of that we had a lot to deal with. So I don't have that perspective of going, to another place. Now you have Joshua Jones, and again, thank you for joining tonight, Joshua Jones. I know you've been pretty busy in the chat. Randy, I've also seen in the chat tonight. Embrace the Grace. Thank you also for stopping through tonight. Also in the chat, appreciate you being here tonight. But he has a comment here. You can't be Greek here after three generations. Please give it a try, though. We would love to see it. So again, so the fight to maintain your Greeks. Well, I've already said, at the start of the show, that I see first generation kids here lose about half of it because the first thing you lose when you come here, more than likely, especially if you grew up in America, is your language. Now, you can probably understand it well and you can probably speak it maybe 50% well, but to be fluent in it, I mean, your parents really have to work hard, like only insisting that you only speak the language in the house, no English at all. You put the kids. I know some Indian folks that I know. They put their kids in special schools so they can learn the Telugu or the Hindi or whatever the language is. It's very difficult here to even maintain that. So most of the kids I know, they can understand it perfectly. When their parents are yelling at them, or any kind of conversation, they know it fluently. But to
So
speak it
let me
on a
touch
regular
base on this
basis
actually.
is very hard.
So I can do it two different ways. Ilgingi glossa είναι τόσο ωραία και καλή, δεν θέλω να την αλλάξουν. Πρέπει να την μάθουμε. So in other words, the Greek language is something that we take very seriously in any Greek household. I don't care, first generation or 12th generation. This is how Greek's always been. So us learning the Greek, yes, you're right. I have forgot some of it because American is my first language now. Like, tell me how to read a book in Greek. I'm like, good luck. I need to study first. Tell me how to write Greek. And, ooh, now you're asking for $1 million there. First, give me $1 million, then we could talk about that part.
Right.
Now, ask me to have a full blown conversation, and I have. I had bosses that were Greek. I had friends that are Greek. My buddy Dimitri, for great example. He was watching. Shout out to him. Me and him talk Greek most of the times, but we always go back to English half the times,
Right.
because some things are just easier to compromise for both of us. And he lived in Greece longer than I have. He left when he was 25, I believe, Greece, and so he lived in Greece a lot longer than I've. He served this. I believe he served the service still. I'm not positive about that, but he lived the Greece longer. So it tells you right there. He even goes back to English sometimes. Yeah. But I see something in him, like where he dresses. He still has the old school Greek way dress. Like he wears like the tight shirts back where they used to wear back over there. They they always had the hair spiked up and shaved the sides, or they had the full, not a man bun, but the full ponytail, like RVD used to have, if you remember that wrestler. Yeah. Stuff like that. That's the old school way. The fanny packs, they still carry the fanny packs around for men. Because you don't have a purse, you have a fanny pack for men. I'm like, you never kept me dead with that. Some things I'm like, fortunately, as a Greek, like, whoa, no, we're not going backwards. I'm like, I'm cool. I'm like, that's too far.
Right.
But some
now,
other
let me ask you this about the language piece. Does the language you speak change how you argue or how you emote yourself? Like it used to be like there was like a thing, like, remember, I don't know, too old to remember, if you ever watched like I Love Lucy, right?
I remember I Love Lucy. Yeah.
Remember when Ricky would get upset, he would just start going in Spanish. Like he would speak English most of the time, but if he got upset, all the Greek, the Spanish came out. Do you find that kind of experience where if you really want to express yourself, you can only express yourself in Greek? If you swear, is there a way of swearing in Greek that's different from swearing? Because a lot of immigrants, they learn all the bad cuss words in English first, and that's why a lot of them they curse or whatever. But talk about that, like, so to versus being in speaking English or being in America versus in Greece, like how, in terms of emotion, in terms of the language. So it's not just speaking the language, but how you emote in that language. How is that different, you think?
So I'll give you a good example. One of our curses goes "putana tikimo." It's not really a curse, but for somebody
that's a phrase, man.
Wait, hang on. I'm not done. So like a Latino will say, "Why are you calling me a fucking bitch?" It's like, I'm not calling you a bitch, dude. Putana tiki means bitch luck. So for a non-trained person, you might say like, okay, now, well, let's go put hands on. Like, no. Depends on how you say it. Like, I have gotten full-blown conversations with somebody, like, and always I'm like, I am going all out and go like, I think I miss my like, so I miss to speak to my therapist every day. I want to get at those. I miss like pretty much I'm gonna fuck you up. I'm gonna fuck your house. I'm gonna fuck you twice. Then I'm gonna fuck you one more time to piss you off. I'm like, and I'm reading like, this makes no goddamn sense in English. Why are we saying this? Like, but in Greek it makes perfect sense. It's just one of those things, like, you cursing and cursing and cursing, like, makes no sense. But it does in Greek. Right. Like, it's a lot of them. I'm like, Like
But
a
now,
couple of
but you
curses.
the back, but the fact that you're in America. So again, looking at Joshua Jones' comments here, it says Foreign Service Officer with the States Department. Again, thank you for your service. Currently in Vietnam. Wow, appreciate you even more for being. So we got folks from Vietnam on this channel tonight. So again, salute you for being with us tonight. It is more often a case that people learns to swear first, and then I think you had a follow up to it. Swearing is from an emotion. It's personal, first acquired and last to die. Now I notice with a lot of foreign people, it's like it's hard once you start, at least with the U with the English cursing. Once you start, it's very difficult to lose it. It's very hard once it becomes part of your vocabulary. But I never heard people, or it doesn't, because I don't know the language. It just doesn't feel the same when people are swearing sort of in their own language or in Greek language. Like, I don't even know if I would even feel offended. You could throw every Greek swear word at me. I still don't know if I would get the emotion of it if you gave it. I may just find it funny or humorous or whatever, but would I get that from you? So from you, since you operate in both worlds and both languages,
Mm-hmm.
there's certain things that can only be said with Greek cuss words or Greek, not so much cursor, but again, Greek words or English words. Marcus, Antonio Castillo, appreciate you for being with us tonight. Thank you for joining. So yeah, so talk about that a little bit in terms of how you express yourself. What feels more natural to you, and what circumstances, if there is a difference, what circumstances drive it?
Really depends how pissed you're gonna get me. So that's where it comes down to it. If you push me over the edge, you're gonna hear both. It depends. I'm gonna get one English, one Greek, one English, one Greek. I go back and forth. So if I'm arguing with Greek, oh, you're getting cursed out in Greek. No, 100%, not a problem. If you're
Mhm.
one cursed out in American, I can curse out in American. But it's one thing about Greeks that we don't have that Americans do. You know what that is?
What is that?
Racist curses.
Mm.
We don't have one.
Is that right?
I'm that
So
serious.
there's no slang for like black people, or there's
Your
no
slang, and it's not even a bad word. You know where you hear it? Here's your
what's that?
slang. Black. Mavros. You're a black man, so I can't hide that.
Right. So that's the Greek
I
that's
can't
the
hear.
Greek word
Let me
for
spray
black.
you.
That Mavros
Yeah,
means black
yeah.
okay.
It's not a
But
bad word.
there's no
No N word.
slang words that are ethnically
Yeah.
driven
Like the
in
N word,
Greek
for
language
example.
as here. Yeah.
Yeah. Like
Yeah,
people use
here
the
we
N
have
word.
something. Here we have
Yeah.
something for everybody.
Yeah. There's no
I don't
such
care,
thing.
Polish, Spanish, like it doesn't matter. They seem to have a word for everybody here.
So I'll give you this for example. Like if you want to use a slang term in Greek, you
Mm,
have to go to American slang. And nobody will use that word like freely, like like they do here, like
mm.
this and that. I'm like, nope, not happening in there. If you do, you're probably gonna get your teeth knocked the fuck out.
All right, so CBN is chiming in. We Nigerian have a racist word in our do have a racist word in our language. You have to share that with us on the back here. Don't throw it out in the space. Don't throw it out in the space now. But yeah, but everyone's different in yeah, in that regard. But so again, so driving home so we had, and this was sort of impromptu. We talked about the language part. Did you have anything else to add in terms of what it means to be an American, and in terms of your freedom? Do you feel more free here? Do you feel more an individual here? What drives that home for you? If you want to make it succinctly.
Just remember what we have here. Go live
Mhm.
in another country for a week or two
Mhm.
or a couple weeks, or if you're in the military, get deployed in a different country. See how different you have it,
Yeah.
and then come talk to me and let's see what conversations you're gonna have then.
Mm. Oh, hang on, Joshua Jones is pushing back on you a little bit, brother. He
Oh,
says
I
here,
know. I
Greeks
was
have
ready for this.
slangs. Now, again, I don't know how to pronounce that since he's throwing it in. He's throwing
I'll
the Greek
say
language.
Turkey. Turkey is Turkish. Turkish are the country. So
Well,
how
yeah,
is that?
that's okay. That's
It's not
pretty.
slang.
Yes, that's pretty right. So it's like to the point that you said earlier. So it's
Yeah.
it's like it's like saying black or whatever, but
You
there's not
can't.
like a there's not
even using the
there's not
word,
a term
here's my
that's like
pushback to this now.
yeah,
And tell me, and I'm gonna push back to you, Paul, because I can speak to you face to face.
sure.
Me calling you black as a man,
Mhm.
right? Because
Right.
it's kind of hard to hide the blackness. No offense.
Right.
Is that, do you consider me using that a racial term towards you?
Not at all.
Now, me
I
saying
mean,
to
it well,
somebody,
yeah. Well, again, because
somebody,
for
go ahead.
us, well, at least for me, and again, I've been on panels, I've talked about this. Black to me is not race. I don't believe in race as a biological term. I
Mhm.
accept ethnicity and I accept phenotype.
And I agree with you.
But
We have
black
agreed
to
on this.
me is an identity, right? It's a culture, it's a way of thinking, it's a movement. So again, I go back again. I was born in '69. So for us growing up with James Brown and the Black Power movements and whatnot, so black was like a unifier. Black brought the Black Americans, the Black
Mhm.
Africans, the Jamaicans, the Caribbeans, like all of us together. So it was basically a shared identity based on common ground in this experience. So again, black used to be a negative to us. They used to call us Negro. Black. Negro is Spanish for black. So for us, we said no, we're embracing this. So yeah, we are black, even though obviously we're not. We don't have literally black skin. But again, so we took that on as a term of empowerment, as a term of endearment. So when we say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud. It is the acknowledgement of our shared experience and our shared cause and our shared vision for the future and working together for common cause and objectives. So I look at the term black in a very positive way, but I don't look at it as a racial term. It's about how all of us being that we're in America and we got the same issues that are being slung at us. And if you look globally, a lot of black people throughout the world, whether you were colonized in Africa or enslaved in the Western Hemisphere, we all have that common thread that unites us. And for me, saying black is that term that I can look at Black David or I can look at someone from the Caribbean, I can look at everybody else and say, look, we have a common cause and struggle. So, let's get together for common cause. So that's how I embrace the term. And so yeah, so you saying that to me, calling me a black man, I prefer that.
Mhm.
Um versus calling me an African man or anything else. When I say black, but I have a very unique way of defining that has helped me and my children because that was really the thing that really drove it. Because when my kids got to school, they were very uncomfortable because again, the school that they go to in college, a lot of first generation African immigrant children who didn't necessarily they weren't necessarily carrying the black card, so to speak. And so they were very ethnic in themselves, being Nigerian, Ghanaian, whatever, at least in more private settings. Now, social settings, like in the middle of the campus square, whatever, then they'll be like, yeah, we're black because, we have to be here. But in their private spaces, you didn't have that common unity as you might have had back in, say, when I was in school, when you had, again, a diverse body of people. So black was definitely something that was something that we defined a little bit differently back then. But you can continue with your point as far as the so the language part obviously being a something where you don't see too many racial slurs in there. But again, the freedoms that you were talking about earlier,
Before we move
and
so forward, I
yeah,
want to address something
yeah,
with
sure,
Josh's comment about Turkish. Yeah, to be Greeks and Turks don't like each other. It's been proven out there, and then you just go up in anything you want online. It's gonna say Turks and Greek cannot stand each other. Yeah, but that's the government. I have met Turks, literally off the plane, off the ship, half off the canoe, whatever you want to call it. Great guys. I have no problem with them.
mm,
I work with one actually, and the
mm,
joke that we have are going on right now, like we stole the gyro, and it's true. We did steal the gyro from the Turks, and we make it better. That's a little joke we have going on in the kitchen right now. Doesn't mean I don't like the person.
right,
I have nothing against him.
right,
You can do whatever you want to say. It is what it is.
I got
You
you.
can believe what you want, but that's my sign of it, and I'll keep my
There
point
you
to
go.
that.
All
Go
right,
ahead, Paul.
all right. All right, so let's keep the conversation moving. And again, thank you again, Joshua. I know you have quite a few comments there. We may not be able to go over all of them, but again, I certainly would appreciate you being part of the conversation today. Maybe in a future show, we'd love to possibly even have you on, and we can talk over some things. Love to have it. Okay, so let's talk about values. Um, that may have changed. Because again, a lot of my experience has been since I work in the IT space. I work with a lot of Asian Indians, and one of the things that they talk about, especially these are folks who came here like maybe in the 80s, like 84, 85, they came here for like graduate school and they got jobs here. They got jobs in tech space. They raised their families here. Like I said, a lot of my friends, their kids are the same ages as mine. And we'll have conversations about how it's different when they go back home in terms of how the culture that they grew up in that was so formative in terms of their mindset when they first got to the country. And now when they go back to the country, they realize that their values have changed, that they've become more Americanized in terms of how they see the world, in terms of how in terms of what they value, especially when it comes to freedom. Like again, especially in those cultures, you have not only do you have the ethnic backgrounds, you have castes, you have very certain social norms that a lot of people operated in. And one of the things that a lot of my Asian Indian friends, what they talk about is like here in America, a lot of that stuff just doesn't matter as much. Like basically, they want to know again, what's your character? What are your values? And as long as that's there, you could be from Mumbai and marry someone from Hyderabad or whatever. Like there's not the hangups about trying to maintain this ethnic purity as it was if you're in the country where a lot of that stuff is still very prevalent. Even though there's a lot of them, again, they're getting a lot of American companies and interest there, but that's definitely something that they notice when they go back home. Like a lot of things, like if the people came here and they saw what they were doing, they was like, I can't believe you guys are doing that here. But when they go home, they then see it differently because again, they've been influenced by seeing what's available in the country. So for you, again, as a Greek man, as a Greek American, what is then the when it comes to like the things you value as an American, how is that different than when you go to Greece or from that of Greek people who are still in the country? When you talk to your friends and people from home, where do you see that difference? Or how have you changed and how have you evolved since then?
So let's go things straight here. When you live in one country, you don't have to worry about. I call it the dating game. The reason I call it the dating game is when you're eventually, like you get in my age, you're looking to meet somebody, your mate, to have kids and all that stuff. So the religion part is a factor in my decision. The reason is I'm not going to tell somebody to convert for me. Tell you that I'm straight out now. If you're, let's say, Hindu or Muslim or whatever, good for you. I'm not going to here to tell you Orthodox is better or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But that is going to make a decision if I'm going to continue with you into a romantic relationship or we can just chill, be friends, and you go meet somebody else and I meet somebody else. That is a big decision. That is one of the biggest values I have taken back over the years. Learning you cannot make people change. They have to want to change. I was like, I'm talking about when I first came to the country, it was weird seeing all these different religions
Mm-hmm.
because I heard about
Yeah,
them.
because
I
Greek
knew,
Orthodox is about 90. We said 95% of the country is Greek Orthodox, or
yeah,
roughly. I mean, it's
yeah,
it's up there. I mean,
it's a
there's not
high
a lot of
number. It's like that's all you see pretty
you're not
much.
going to see a lot of Baptists over there.
No, great example. Like it's nothing wrong with the other,
I'm just throwing
really.
it that I'm sure
No, no,
that
no, no,
yeah,
no. I'm not saying that. What
yeah.
I'm trying to say is you knew one thing. When you see other thing, and like you kind of questions your own, like, is it mine the wrong one or they're the wrong one? Which one is it? As growing
Mhm,
up, and then realize neither are wrong. The only wrong answer is when you're in front of your God, whatever you believe in, He's
mhm,
going to tell you. We call the questions of life. I call it pretty
mhm.
much.
Yeah.
And there's something like, why do we get married? Why do we need to get baptized? Why do we need to do this? Why do we do that? The only time you're gonna find out is when you're up there and
Right.
you're looking at the big guy, and like, hey, dude, you gotta give me some answers now, bud.
Right.
Like,
Right.
and so yeah, it does change a lot of things. It
Mhm,
takes a while to think about it. As you grow up, you don't realize it. It changed me
mhm,
a lot. I
right,
won't be the man I am today if I didn't go through my roughness, I call it, like the religion's one of them.
mhm. So, do you think being in America allowed you to, and I guess we could actually focus, that was actually one of my, talking points here, on religion. Do you think being in America allowed you to more flesh out what you believe and why, more so than if you were in Greece, where since the country, it's like so like indoctrinated. Now, I hate to use the word indoctrinated, but it's like I said, it's a reality. It's like you go to your left and to your right, most people are going to be essentially who you are. And so, um, being here and seeing the diversity and seeing um, how a lot of people approach religion here, do you think it was easier here for you to flesh that out in your mind, or how would you think you coming of age, and if you lived your whole life in Greece, how do you think it would have been? How do you think it would have been different for you?
That is a interesting conversation because it's a two-part answer. It was harder and easier at the same time. Harder because it kind of like makes you think other things. Even I call it to the point of darkness, like
Mm,
starting like walking away from the church. And I did walk away from the church. I never stopped believing, but I walked away.
mhm,
Needed
mhm,
to. I was hanging out with the wrong people. This is a better answer I can say. Like hanging out
gotcha.
with people I shouldn't be hanging out with.
Mhm,
So besides saying all that stuff, it took me a while to figure out which route I need to go to.
mhm,
So I did. And now I'm back in the church. Now I'm more in it than ever.
right.
Even more than when I was a kid. And back then I was an altar boy. Tell you how
Mhm.
much I was in it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember you sharing that.
So the me coming here did change a lot of factors
Mhm.
and make me be more open minded,
Yeah,
learning more, questioning more. Not questioning
right.
like is Christ. No, no, no. I'm not saying that. Question like, why do you do this?
Mhm,
Like, for example, I got a good friend of mine who's damn, what was it? Muslim. Hashim. You
mhm.
met Hashim on my
Yeah,
show.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Good dude.
Great
Yeah,
guy.
yeah.
Great guy. One of my best
Mhm,
friends. And I have we have questions. We have full debates about religion.
mhm.
We never get disrespectful. We never scream. We just say,
Right.
"This is why I do this. Like why I fast. Oh, I purify my body. Yada yada yada. Oh, I do the same thing, but in a different way. Holy shit! Like this is why I like having these conversations with the right people. Like me and you can have this conversation. I'll use you as an example because you're right there. We can have a conversation and not get in a scream match.
Right.
Duh, you're right here.
Right.
But my point is trying to get to when you start bringing religion in. This is a hot topic. Like I think Josh said it right. Is a hard topic over there.
Yeah, well, I guess his point here is,
Yeah, yeah.
and obviously,
It's
and I
nasty.
agree with his comment here. I think America, and at least in some circles, I don't know if it does have the national fervor,
Mhm.
but you certainly, I think you do have interest groups who wouldn't mind having the United States as a nationalistic country or Christian nationalist country.
Thank you.
And I think that is a movement where people, and there's within the faith itself, it's called Dominion theology. So that there's a whole subculture there where they're definitely pushed that, and they're trying to do it through legislation. They're trying to do it through elections and different things. So that is a concern that a lot of people that a lot of people have. So so that is something to be mindful of. But here you have a country, like I said, in Greece, it is basically an Orthodox national country. I mean, so again, so
Yeah,
just have the idea, at least when we get into what you're saying, is that in America you had the choice to see other perspectives and then come to your own decisions and conclusions on what you believe, versus if you were in Greece, you would have been so sort of inoculated from seeing anything else. You wouldn't have known anything else. So again, a lot of people are sort of followers just because you're raised in it. You can't escape it. But
pretty much.
the exploration that you went on in terms of your own personal faith and the ebbs and flows of that, the darkness that you talked about, you were able to come back to it, and now you're coming to Greek Orthodox willingly. You're not just doing it because my mother did it and her mother did it and so on and so forth. You made your own decision that this is the path for me. This is what I want to follow. And so for you, it's maybe a richer experience for you, or you're more appreciative now that you've had the opportunity to kind of see what else was out there and go through your personal steps to come to a certain place where you're now comfortable with the faith that you now profess?
Yeah, pretty much that sums it in. Because I went through things that I didn't. I If I lived in Greece, I probably wouldn't go through half the stuff I went through. I
Mm,
wouldn't be as maybe apple minded either. Again, I don't know that. That's a different Pete I don't know about. I know the
mhm,
Pete that is sitting in front of you and having this conversation. And this is why I call myself the ghost of Sparta, because as a ghost of Sparta, that key word, they always fight for what's right. And they had
mhm,
different kinds of groups in their
right.
camps. People don't realize that. People only see, oh, Greeks were like white people. Actually, that's completely wrong. They were not white. They were like more like a Latino color, believe it or not, like a darkish
Mhm.
color.
Right. Yeah. The olive
Thank you.
complexion that
Yeah.
we were talking about before. Yeah.
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 I'm using that as an example,
Mhm.
but people don't see that.
Right. Well, like I
That's
said,
all you
and I
need.
think a lot of that, again, that idea of white and black, again, I think that's part of the, again, I think what America does. I think really Western Western Europe and U.S. in particular. Like I said, if you look up, I ask anybody to look up, and again, I know Wikipedia isn't the most reliable source to get information, but I think it gives a good bibliography. Look up on Wikipedia, look up scientific racism. And basically, what it does, it gives you a breakdown of where race theory started, who were the originators. Again, most of it was Western Europeans, and they're the ones who came up with, again, these racial classifications. So you have Caucasian or Caucasoid, Asian Mongoloid, black being Negroid, and then all of the attributes and characteristics which they carry with that. So again, so I think with the birth and advancement of that theory, I think we lost a lot of the nuance where we used to be, again, tribes and peoples, and defined by borders and regions and languages. We were kind of lumped in with one another. In fact, it was even in US policy for a while. Like, even in this country, if you were 1/8 black, you were considered black, even if you might not have looked black, or what have you. But again, America had ways of classifying people, and it wasn't always the case. So when again, those early immigrants came here, whether it be the Irish or the Italians or the Polish or whatever, they were that initially, but then somehow in their time in America, they became white. So again, Greeks, when they probably first came here, weren't necessarily looked at as white, but somehow the country has a way of making people, you're either black or white. Now, Latinos, that's interesting for them, because from what I've seen, there is, especially if you look at census tests, a lot of Latinos will identify themselves as white, even though might be a brown skin or darker complexions or whatever. Because again, even the census tests, until recently, I think they're starting to change them out. I think the next census, you may have a lot more diversification. But again, the way our census tests used to be, it was either like you were either black or white or what have you. So this country doesn't give you a lot of that flexibility. At least it didn't. Maybe we'll see that in future years and future census, where people can be more, have more nuance in terms of how they identify themselves. But for the longest time, you either white or non-white, and then if you were non-white, then it broke down into these categories. So I think that's something that is part of, again, the socialization, how America makes people from being Greek or Italian or Polish or whatever, and makes them white or black or brown. That's another category that people add to it. But the religious discussion, I find interesting. Um, Want to move to another topic now. What about women, or the role of women? Obviously, here in America, we know that equality is something that's really practiced here, or at least allegedly practiced here. Equality for women. You have the women's rights movements, and we always talk in these spaces about feminism, and not here to debate whether or not it's good, bad, or indifferent. Basically, what I'm driving at is, have your views, being in America, has it changed how you view women, as opposed to Greek women, or Greek culture, how Greek society views women? And again, I'm just comparing. Like for all I know, Greeks may think of women as equals more than Americans do. I don't know. I'm just saying from your experience being in America, how Greek Americans or you as a person view women versus how Greek society in Greece views women. Uh, do you see any changes there or distinctions, or what are the distinctions that you can enlighten us on in terms of how that how that dynamic works in your life
So
personally? If that's something that you find yourself different from your other Greek counterparts who might be, for lack of a better word, more chauvinistic or whatever. You know, Greek women should stay in the kitchen. Again, I don't know. You can spin that however you want to spin it.
I'll never say a woman needs to stay in the kitchen. I'll never say a woman's below me. Equal, possible. A old Greek saying from my fat Greek and one, man might be
Wait,
ahead,
wait a minute.
but the
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Say that again.
old saying from my fat Greek wedding. If you remember, I quote this to. I'm not sure it's me, but
Okay, the movie. Okay.
yeah, it was the man might be the head, but a woman turns the head,
Uh-huh.
and I do believe in that in a certain extent. Now, how I see American women, I'm disgusted with them. Point blank, straight up. The reason I say that because the way they're acting now lately, the last 5, 10, maybe 15 years,
Mhm.
the women rights, the Me Me movement, the we have women power bullshit, or I can go on and on for days.
Mhm.
But let's back it off and go back from ground zero.
Mhm.
Maybe get more. Yeah, there are Greek women that are lawyers. There are Greek women that are judges. There are Greek women who actually became president recently too.
Mhm.
So we don't have this Greek movement. Let's go. Let's go become the freaking the Jane stars. Like, woohoo! No, none of that.
Mhm.
It's
So how then were these advancements made in Greece if there wasn't an actual movement for women's rights in Greece? How then women were able to become again lawyers and doctors and other professions and things of that nature? I mean, so that just people just allowed it, or
I'm gonna
what do
tell
you
you a little
think was the
secret. All right.
yeah?
Everybody ready? You can't say out loud, right? Put your nose down, work hard, and earn your stripes. Oh my god, it actually works. I'm like, I don't know about you, but I became a chef because I put my nose down. I busted my ass and proved that I was hungry for it. And I'm
Mhm.
not done yet. I'm just getting warmed up. Same
Mhm.
thing you put. You probably put your nose down, grind, and earn
Right.
what you got, right?
Right. But I'm saying, but there was never a move like for example, in the United States, there was from what I understand, because this has been cited and I think I looked it up one time,
Mhm.
a woman couldn't own if you were a married woman, you couldn't own a credit card
In the
in the
States
United
or
States. In the United States
yeah,
until
I believe
1974.
that is facts.
1974. So again, there had to be some laws. I mean, again, and we all know about, women couldn't vote until 1920 and just the different, rights that had to be granted to women. So I'm saying in Greece, from your background, there weren't certain initiatives put in place for women to have. I'm assuming Greek women have the right to vote. They have, I don't know if it's right to work or whatever, however you want to call it, but you don't recall that there have been movements in Greece to give women's rights to certain things, or is it just
No,
if you agree? Is it just across the board?
maybe it's across the board, maybe it's not. I don't know. But what I think I do know is I have never seen Greek women go, woman power or go down the street and screaming and acting like a fool. No,
Mhm.
it's always been equal. I mean, I saw a lot of things. Like I had a neighbor of mine who had opened his own company, and his wife worked with him, and but they busted her ass and got what they got. And like he did the heavy lifting because he traveled, he filled up the van and delivered. He was plastic stuff he built like bags, containers, stuff like that.
Mhm.
So and he busted his ass. He
Mhm.
was a delivery and she was the paperwork person.
Mhm.
She also had the kids at home, so he had 3 girls. So it was just easier that way for them.
Mhm.
And it's nothing
Do you
wrong with that.
think it may have something to do with? Again, this is totally just came into my head.
Mm,
As far as Greek mythology, maybe having something to do with how men and women are viewed, because obviously you had like Greek gods
mhm.
and you have like Wonder Woman, right? Like that whole mythology, is drenched in Greek culture, right? I mean, it's part of that. And again, I don't know all the Greek gods and all that. You may be able to name some, but the fact even then you had female gods and you had male gods, and each god seemed to have a serve a different role or a function, and they were powerful in their own right based on what they were. Do you think that might have had something to do with how, since you're saying that Greece never necessarily had a mass movement to liberate women from doing whatever, but do you think some of that might be entrenched in how women have always been viewed based on the God perspective? And I know, I don't know how many people in Greece still practice, ancient gods or worship ancient
You
gods or
knew that
whatever.
was coming.
I don't know. But I'm just saying,
Um,
but could that have something to do? Because to me, that's almost groundbreaking, considering what happened in America. Again, women couldn't vote. You didn't have certain rights. You couldn't, some women couldn't work in certain places. You weren't able to go to certain schools. Uh, a lot of things had to be done here in order to advance the cause for women to get access to things. And from what I'm hearing from you is in Greece, I don't know if it's ever been uh, um, a problem. Now, Joshua was saying here, Greece granted of rights, voting rights to women in 1926. So I guess there was and that was around the same time because women's movement here, women's suffrage was 1920. So I think that the there was some things that have taken place, but and again, we don't have to go into a deep history lesson per se, but I just want to just in terms of attitudes, it seems like from what you're telling me, Greeks generally, if you earn it, regardless of you're a man or a woman or what have you, uh, you get it. Like there's not a sense that okay, this is a man's domain. If you can do the work, then you get it. Is that what I'm hearing from you?
Pretty
Is that
much. And I will say that this might be sounds very sexist. There are jobs that women will say, "I'm not doing it because I cannot handle it." There's no things from what I have seen. A woman can do a man's. I'm not saying they can. They couldn't. I've seen women being mechanics,
mhm,
for example,
mhm,
but I don't really see that in Greece.
mhm,
And it's a few jobs like um being a cop, for example. There are female cops.
mhm.
Now the draft, they they don't draft women. Simple as like, don't know why.
Oh,
That's
they don't.
how it, they never have, never will.
Mm,
The government has said many times, we don't have no reason to draft women. Part of the biggest reason, from my understanding, this is my little understanding from my godfather. You need somebody to multiply, and you need the women for that. Now, the
right.
women, you can't do any of that.
Now, women, they can volunteer. Like, do women enlist? Like, if they want
You
to.
could, yeah,
Okay.
to get into service is after you is a process. So you for a male, you have to be drafted. You do your 8 years, then you come out, then you have to apply, and the process is 4 years to get in. That's
Right.
how long you get in. Women is probably worse because you don't have the draft part. Once you apply, you have to give them a good reason why they should take you in.
Mhm.
And most
Right.
jobs there are most desk jobs or nursing jobs, something for a female.
Mhm.
I'm not saying they cannot be infantry. They don't have infantry women. Last time I checked, could it change anytime soon? Yeah, anything can change.
Right.
Because laws change all the time, like we know.
Right.
But with the Greek thing, with like Josh said tonight, yeah, that is probably it is facts that 26 happened.
Yeah.
I don't remember learning any
Right.
movement in
Right.
school. I don't even remember the day, to be honest with you, because I
Right.
wasn't
I'm
around
just
back
saying, yeah,
then.
but let's make it more just common every day. Because, like I said, we
Okay,
can get into the
common every
again
day.
the
I'll give you a
history.
common every day what
Common
I
every day.
have
So
seen in my
a
eyes.
Greek woman in Greek culture growing up, she's usually going to be what? Or versus like in America, like if a woman, girl grows up, she wants to be a doctor, she wants to be a lawyer, she wants to be an officer, she wants to do whatever. I mean, here it's like whatever you want to be. And for the most part, I mean, I'm not saying that you have certain men here that are very conservative and said that certain jobs that women shouldn't be doing or we shouldn't be raising women to go into certain jobs or what have you. But in Greece, is that the same thing? Are women looked at saying, "Hey, you could be anything," or is the expectation more so you're going to be a mother and wife and homemaker or something like that? So what is just the general attitudes of Greek men towards Greek women versus Greek American men towards either Greek women or any woman for that matter. In the side, do you see a difference if you were going to raise a daughter here? Let's say God blesses you to have daughters. Would you want them raised more so in Greece, or more so in the in America, or even if it's in a Greek American community. So flesh that out for me a little bit. I just wanted to just everyday, because we talk in these spaces about male female relationships all the time, almost to death. But from a Greek perspective or from a Greek American perspective, where do you land there?
So that's a rough one for me to answer that one because I'm torn in different places, and I never thought about this till right now. To be honest with you, where would I prefer have my daughter raised? Probably between Greece and a Greek American community. The reason I say that is the values.
Hmm.
Like, I don't have the same values in this household versus my neighbors. I live in an apartment complex.
Hmm. Hmm.
So they have different values. Doesn't mean I don't get along with them. We have different values.
And you're both Greek, so even still, there's different values there.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So now, if we say my neighbor and I lived across in a different complex years ago with Greeks, they used to knock on my door. Hey, mom's okay? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, okay, that's a little weird. Hey, you forgot your car open. I'm like, the fuck? You guys are nosy as shit. But they're not nosy. They're watching out for you. I realize over
Hmm.
the time. It's the values are different. Like, give you a good everyday example from a Greek woman from what I grew up seeing through my friends. Get up in the morning. They make breakfast. They make the lunch for the kids. Kids goodbye. Make sure they're on the bus. The father does the same thing.
Hmm.
Depends who goes first. If they say the kids have to be escorted at 8 and the father has to be at 7, they figure that out. It's a team effort on that part. Now, they do their thing, come home, play with the kids a little bit, make dinner. The wife usually does the dinner. The father usually helps them with the homework and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Watch TV, put them to bed, and call it a night. Shower, all that stuff in between, of course.
Hmm.
That's what I grew up on.
Hmm.
Now, is that same here? I don't know. But that's what the American dream says. But is it actual the American dream in 2024? I don't think so.
Hmm.
It has changed now because, like, for example, I work nights mostly.
Hmm.
Doesn't mean I'm going to be able to put my kids to bed every night.
Right.
So my wife has to do it most times. I might be able, and she might not have time to put them on the bus. So I might have to wake them up, make sure they get ready, get the breakfast ready, get the lunch ready, and put them on a bus.
Hmm.
Things have changed because different times, even in Greece. Greece, we don't have buses. You actually have to walk your kids to school.
Hmm.
So the different lifestyle. So that's a hard question to answer, and that's the best answer I have for you.
Right. Right. But in terms of, like I said, flash forward 5 years from now, you're married and you have a daughter. I'm just gonna speak that into existence for you. All right, 5 years from now, Mr. and Mrs. Grooming, you have a 5-year-old, you have a say 3-year-old daughter, because I want to give you a couple years to have your fun and everything before you bring kids into the world. Don't have kids. That's my advice. Don't have kids too early. All right. Um, so you're gonna have some kids, and you see this daughter, and from your perspective, being an American at this point, what are you envisioning for her? Like, what do you uh, thinking that she's going to grow up to be? Do you think it's is it more than if you were again in Greece? So you and Mrs. Sparta in Greece. Here's your daughter. There's a different. There's a way. There's a mindset. There's a way that she's going to grow up here versus in the United States. Do you think that exists? And if so, what is it?
So one thing I will say is going to be difference if I had a daughter. I would have that serious conversation with my wife. Is where are we raising her? Stateside or Greece? One or the other. I already know I'm not moving back to Greece.
Yeah,
It's
I
gonna
was
be
about to. I was
stateside.
about to say. So
Yeah,
having your conversation. Yeah, you're
yeah.
you're
I'm
you're
just
bound
bringing it
here.
that as an example, of
Okay,
course.
got it. Got it.
Let's say it's an option. Let's say it is. Okay. Okay. We decide to raise her here. If we're gonna raise her here, that's it. We're not going back and forth like that. That screwed me up in my language barrier and my disability. So
Hmm.
I don't want her to go through the same heartaches I went through. The
Hmm.
same heartaches, like going from culture to culture. And like when you first come here, it's hard. As much as lessons now, but as a kid, you don't see that. It
Hmm.
messes your mind up a little bit.
Hmm.
So it's gonna be one or the other. And if say we pick stateside, it's fine.
Hmm.
But I'm kind of a person like I want her to experience stuff, to learn stuff.
Hmm.
I'm not gonna hold it back, but I'm
Right.
also make sure I'm in her life every day and find out where the hell she is. That's why they have all these little, I might put AirPods on over her every piece of clothes, socks, everything. I don't know where it goes in everywhere.
Right. Right.
But seriously, joking, like I'm not gonna be like comparing like one of those parents like say, "Don't go there." Like you want to go there, you can go, but don't cry to me when you're not happy.
Mhm.
You see what I'm saying?
Right, but what you just named there, again, that's a big difference, that I see with, again, any immigrant communities that I've encountered, again, those who've grown up here for a while. The expectations in terms of the woman changes drastically in that they want the daughter to be able to explore anything that they wanna be. So if you came from a background that was mostly where the wife was traditional and got married young and raised children and whatnot, these parents that have been here for a while, again, so these folks came here like in the mid 80s to early 90s. They want their girls to go be an engineer, go get your master's, go get your doctorate, go get whatever your talents and abilities will take them. They're not trying to hold them so far down. Yes, they try to press on certain cultural traditions and holidays and festivals and things of that nature, but they're not holding women back in terms of their pursuits of career, or anything that they want to do. Like, for example, if you're in India, if you're going to go to college, what I've always been told is that you're only going to go to college for three things. You're going to be a doctor, or you're going to be an engineer, or some tech, architecture or something. That's it. You're not going to college to study art history or English literature or some liberal arts education. Very specific. Like you weren't going to play sports on a professional level, if you're from India. I mean, so again, very specific fields that you were going into when you were there. Here, if a woman wants to study nursing, if she wants to study sociology, become any, like I said, any profession, the parents are like, look, let her. Now again, they may get flack from the folks back home, from the grandparents and stuff. It's like, wait, if she's not going to be married or whatever, at least let her go and be an engineer or something. Again, they have very, the mindset of a lot of Asian Indian communities, certainly in the country, is, again, they have a very limited uh, um, opportunities or mindset how they see children or the fields that they need to go into. If you're not going to be a domestic, then go into these certain fields. But the parents here, it's like whatever talent. If she's smart, if she wants to be a mathematician, she wants to be an actuary, she wants to be an accountant, she wants to be, whatever it is, they're all for it here. And that's like a big thing. And that causes a lot of fights a lot of times when they do go home and they talk to, the parents and say, hey, how are the kids and whatnot, and say, oh, she's studying art history or whatever. Like, what? You're spending all this money to send her to school to study that? I mean, it's a different mind, it's a different mindset when it comes to that here.
That
So
is
that
a hard answer for me to answer because
mhm,
I'm a believer when you go to college, do your research. I'm not saying if you like history like I do, you can, get into it. But are you gonna drop all that money in college and the field is so small? It's like out of 1,000 people, only 1% get the job. Then what are you gonna do if you don't get the job? I don't know. That's the answer I usually hear. And I hear this from people that I know have kids. And I ask them, like, what are you going to school for? I go, I want to be X, Y, and Z. Okay, what is the chance? I'm like, I never heard of that. What did it do? Couldn't get in detail. Like someone I know who said about music, get to explain to me. Yeah, the music is not a something I will say is you're gonna make money in down the road. How big is the field in that? Oh, very small. They tell me
mhm,
there's only maybe like 100 jobs out there. 100 jobs? What's
mhm.
the chance of you getting it?
Right,
Slim to none almost. Now you tell me
right.
you wanna be a lawyer, okay, now I can get on board with that.
Mhm,
Or you wanna do something like I'm not saying you have to be a lawyer, but
mhm,
be smart with the money you're gonna spend before you say,
mhm.
"I wanna do it." You still can get into music later on as a hobby,
Right,
maybe become a full-time job later on.
right,
I like
right.
great example, another YouTuber, Dan C. Bearded. He was a teacher full-time
Mm.
teacher. He loves beards more than me,
Okay.
and he's a full-time beard contact now,
Mm.
full-time. Because that's how much he loved it. He can turn around, but he knew coming out of school he could not be a full-time beard contact. He didn't know he was going to get into a beard contact till later on.
Hey Peter, speaking of beards, real quick, I have a request of you if you can do it without disrupting the show too much. If you can tilt your camera down just a tad so we can see more of your face, there you go. Because we weren't able to see that beautiful beard because your grooming and reviews 101 hashtag was covering it up. So we want to be able for you to see again, even see the follically free people like myself. We don't have beef or disagreements with our follicle brothers. We want you guys to be your expressive self. So I want everybody to be able to see that beautiful beard that you've cultivated over the years and not have it covered up by the hashtag. So thank you for doing that. But you can continue with your next point.
Yes, Mr. President, as your Mr. President. Um, so I have no problem. You, my kid or nephew, or whatever, wants to do whatever they want.
Hmm.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
But be smart with the money. Be
Yeah.
smart what you're going for, and your time and effort alone. You
Right.
get a master's in something like toilet paper is pretty much. There's nothing I can do with it.
Right.
Bruce Lee's a great example. Like he went to philosophy. Am I saying that right? But could
Yes.
he make any money off it?
No. No. But again, he had very unique ideas back then. He wanted to open up like all these martial arts schools. He wanted to have like a franchise chain of, and then he realized after a while he couldn't do that. But that's one of the things that this is actually going to segue. We got about 30 minutes left in the show. And this is going to start to segue into the last part of the conversation. There's a lot of different areas we can go in tonight. So again, we talked about religion, we talked about women, we talked about traditional values. We talk about language tonight. One final area that I want to get into tonight, and again, we may have to come back and revisit this
Before
because
you
yeah.
say anything, what I was thinking also as I'm having on this topic is we need to swing back after maybe a few months into this show in our show and do a
Mhm.
part 2 on all this stuff and touch
Yes,
base.
indeed, for
Yeah.
sure,
Yeah.
for
Go
sure.
ahead, Paul. I'm sorry to cut you off.
Um, Not a problem, not a problem. So getting into again why here, and this is part of the again what being in America does to people. Because you have to understand, for a lot of people, the reason why a majority of people, I think, come to the United States is oftentimes for economic opportunity.
Bingo.
And so when you're in these countries where you have limited resources, you have limited opportunities, especially a lot of these countries are third world. And so you can't see that potential to be anything that you want like it is here. So for a lot of these folks who came again, I heard the story so many times. I came to America and I only had $20 in my pocket, or I only had enough money to get my books for school or get a bus pass and travel to the university that I went to. I mean, all those immigrant stories. I had to work part-time in a restaurant, Indian restaurant, to get and the reason again why I'm making all these Indian resources, because again, that community I have been intimately involved with for nearly 30 years. From my college days, since all my TAs and professors were from India, and then just associates, good friends of mine over the years. I'm kind of like they invite me to a lot of the Diwali festivals and things of that nature. So I'm kind of in. So I know a lot of these people pretty well, pretty intimately. We've had some conversations similar to what we're having tonight. We've had these conversations, and when you're here, again, these people, they've made good lives for themselves, middle class, upper middle class. I mean, where they came from like villages and not having running water and just not having all the modern conveniences. And now the fact that they're here, now they can start to think differently about not only what they can have, but also for what their children can have. Like I said, if you're in India, you only had like three uh occupations that were considered acceptable for you to go into. Here, because you're making money, I mean, you make it if your household, especially if you and your wife are engineers or whatever, you're making $250,000 a year and up here in the US. So it's like, sure, if my daughter wants skating lessons, fine, she can take skating lessons. If she wants to pursue music, Fine, we can pay for her to get private tutors. We can pay for so the idea of the American dream here, the sense that if you work hard, you can be anything that you want, which isn't true for most. I mean, you're still only talking about 1% making it in anything, whether it be 1% in sports or 1% in music or 1% in entertainment. You know, uh, that's the sell that you can be and do anything here. And you have a society that will generally support you in your efforts to do so. So there's an economic component to why certain communities make different decisions or why they may think about what their daughters do differently because there's economic opportunity, especially now. I mean, they're practically begging women here to get into STEM fields. I mean, if you want to go for STEM, there's money available. You can go to college for free. They're trying to get women to really get onto those fields. Now, a lot of them simply don't want to go into it, but they're really trying to break ground there to get these women. Say, a good friend of mine, his daughter, she did engineering, she did the whole STEM thing. Now she's working for Boeing, so she's doing careers taking off very nicely. But that is something that I think is stimulating a lot of the discussion. So moving into this last topic for this conversation that we may have to definitely come back to, how you view money in terms of, again, being in America, Greek American versus being in Greece, how you view money, how do you use money, how do you investing, or your spending habits, how is that different, you being in the US and being able to pay for the things that you pay for versus being in Greece? The buying power, does that change your mindset? Uh, uh, between yourself and people who are in Greece? Are Greek people more frugal generally than Americans? And that could either be just a mindset, or it could simply be because they don't have as much money to be liberal with, to just go, because here America is based purely, this is a consumer economy. This is, again, if people don't spend money on stuff, America doesn't work. We are capitalism and it's not even true capitalism, but capital, spending, consumer spending is a major indicator on everything. How the country is doing, what people are spending their money on. So consumer pushing spending is something that's needed here. I don't know what that is like in Greece. So speak on the topic of a Greek American versus a native person from Greece in regards to money, money management, and the role of money, how it's used in the two societies. And again, speak from yourself personally, as well as from what you know of the Greek experience.
So that's a difficult question because I kind of answered it in a previous show before.
Okay.
So in Greece, we don't have as many now. They're going in there, but we didn't have these main big name chains like Jordans,
Yeah.
Nikes,
Yeah.
Kicks,
Yeah.
Under Armour.
Right. Right.
Now they're in coming into the country. It's now I don't know how it is, but back then when I lived there, people were tight with the money because it was a buck earned well. Here, you're spending. You're spending money right and left.
Hmm.
I don't care if you get a polo that has legit from Polo, or you get a knockoff brand from Walmart. You start spending money some way or form. A lot
Hmm.
of times we don't even need the shit and we buy it as Americans.
Yeah.
There's that.
Yeah.
So, but that also helps the economy. So that's a good question. But I want to touch base on one little question you didn't ask, but somebody else did about the Europe trading thing that collapsed my economy back in
Yeah. The
Greece.
crash. Yeah. The crash.
Crash.
Yeah.
He's coming right, and I talked based on it before. When it first happened, when the first day everybody had to go to the banks, give them the drachmas, and get the euro trade from the banks. Even after that, even now, people grab their cell phones, making calculations. What is the difference after all these years?
Mm.
That's why the market in Greece is never going to go back what it was because they cannot
Mm.
get out of that mindset.
Hmm.
When we stop thinking, drachma's dead. The paper is not even worth it. I have some in my safe.
Mm.
they're probably valuable to somebody, but not in a bank.
All right. Tell me, just if you can just again highlight for certainly for the
Mhm.
audience. And again, Josh has been drilling us tonight, so I'm
He's
sure
he's good. I like
he's
him.
like he
I
knows.
actually
I think he knows the answers before he even asked the question. So
I
he's
got a
been
question
pretty
for Josh. You
articulate.
ever been in Greece? That's my first question because
That's
it
what I'm
sounds like he
thinking. He might
has.
be Joshua Jones. That might even be his name. He might be a he might be someone who converted over. But again, I appreciate you being with us tonight. But just talk just generally, very high level
Mhm.
about what the effect was on Greece. So again, Americas, we've had 2008, we had the recession, the crash, the housing crash. I mean, we've had recessions and things that we've gone through here. But just to give, if as best as you know it, since obviously I don't know if you were there when it happened, but or
I
old
was
enough to
there
understand.
2 years after the crash, and
Okay,
it was still recovering. They're still struggling. The crash was still going on for years. It wasn't
right,
like 6 months. I tell you a funny story about this.
right.
I think it's
Josh was just
hilarious.
saying, yeah, he works. I forgot he works for the State Department, so it's his job to know this stuff. So I know
Oh, cool.
he's yeah. So he's definitely
Okay,
been spitting facts tonight.
so I'm in a corner hanging out with my friends, mind my own business. So I'm hearing crashes and stuff like that. Next minute I know, I see a pickup going straight down the street, chained up to ATM, dragging it down the street.
Oh man.
I look at my friend, like my best friend, and goes like, was that a fucking ATM?" He goes, "Yeah, yeah." You make it sound like it's like everyday normal. Like, actually, it is now. He goes, "People
Wow.
are now. How about people are starving? They would risk anything to get a buck in their hands to go feed people."
So
When I
so
was
was there like
younger,
mass homelessness or
oh yeah,
mass
oh yeah,
people starving? I mean, what
homeless, not
it,
starving. Yes, yeah.
okay.
There was a time when I was younger, when I was living in Greece, there were a bunch of guys robbing banks
Mhm.
to give the money to the poor, a Robin Hood situation,
Right,
and they
right.
were doing
Wow.
it. But when they got caught, the handcuffs didn't change. The cops didn't have to put them in. The judge had to try them. The judge had to throw them in jail for X, Y, and Z years. They
Mhm.
didn't change. They robbed 10 banks before they got
Mhm.
caught.
Right.
They weren't looking for them that
Wow.
hard. But my
Wow.
point is trying to get to is people were struggling to go to extremes. Like my neighbor was one of my neighbors has a jewelry factory downstairs. I know the guy pretty well. I bought jewelry from him and everything. They literally, I'm not even kidding you, AK'd his store. Literally, 5 people came in and AK'd it. I mean, literally made it Swiss cheese. Tried stealing it. Didn't get anything out of it. They got arrested instead because they
Mhm.
destroyed everything by, going down, machining him down. You're not accomplishing anything. You're destroying everything.
Right.
But Greece has never, they're still struggling comedy. They have never came out of it.
Mhm.
Never. You know where I blame? I don't even blame the euro. You know what I really blame?
Mm.
Getting rid of the king. When we had the king in power, we thrived because the king wasn't in charge of any politics. He was a standby. He was the mediator, pretty much good or bad. Pretty much, if you had to pass a law, you had to see through him first.
So now again, so Greece, is it like a parliamentary system? Is it
Not
like with
anymore.
the
Not anymore. Now it's like here
okay.
is like a government system. It
Right, right.
was
It
at
said to
one
get rid
time.
of the king, but did the king at the time, did he function kind of similar to how the king of England operates, sort of, consulted on
Yeah,
economic issues, or
similar,
was he, but
similar.
he wasn't the final decision maker,
Yeah, yeah. He
or
had to sign off on it, but he was making a decision. Like if he agreed on it, okay, yeah, or it's fine. But he's also making people come in check. So
mhm,
the coup happened, and when that coup
mhm,
happened, a lot of things changed because a lot of
mhm,
people didn't want him in power, and
mhm,
he was a big fan of let's change presidency every few years. He was really pushing that at the time,
mhm,
and when he was pushing it, things changed.
right. Wow. So now, as you said, the king is no more. So there's no
Monarchy, no.
office. There's no. I mean, so it was voted out, or was it? I mean,
So it was not cool. Pretty much the government, the military, the president who was in the vice president who was in charge was backstabbing the king. Went
okay.
after him, man. Next thing you know, people were calling him from the not from the private grounds, but the palace in Athens. He's like, what the hell is going on in there? He's like, it's all documentary. I'll send it to you. It's online, actually.
Mhm.
And he said, what the hell is going on? You have tiger practice? No, it's the military breaking in. I'm like, what? Next thing you know, he's on his private jet and getting out of there. They tell him, get out of the country. If they don't catch you, you're good. He got crucified for that because he
Mhm.
went down to his cousins in England to chill there for a little bit to this and cool off.
Mhm.
And that's why he was known as the king with no country for a while before he died.
Right. Right.
He fought tooth and nail to get his monarchy back. Didn't ever get that back. He took his citizenship away, and it says that's bullshit. That is my citizenship. I earned that. Towards the
Mhm.
end of his life, he got his citizenship, and he was able to move back to Greece. What he did lose is they raided his private residence, and all the jewels were there, pictures,
Oh man.
everything. And if you
Wow.
look at the practice, I can go there and proper. Even you, it's destroyed now. It's sad, and
Mhm.
and it was the worst part about it. My grandmother worked for him personally in the palace, and that broke her heart
Wow.
more than anybody. And
Mm.
goes, he is most nice. They used to write letters back and forth. I used to joke around as a kid, like, what is you writing letters to your boyfriend? I'm like, no, it's the king. I'm like, whatever, it's the king. Whatever.
Wow.
I didn't
Does he
care. I
have
didn't know
any
anything better.
does he have any descendants that are
Yes.
okay? And
Prince,
are they in Greece or are they trying to uh get back in power at some point
he's
or is
in
it
Greece right now. I know. He was the one who gave his father's what is that called? When you keep the speech right at the funeral. Help me out here, Paul. You know what I'm talking about. Um I can't remember. He put his speech, the last speech he gave him. He gave a beautiful speech,
yeah,
English and
eulogy.
Greek,
Yeah. Yeah, eulogy.
usually.
Yeah.
And he doesn't even gives me the tears up now a little bit. You know, like he told him, now you can rest easy and you have a safe trip till we meet again, my king.
Mhm.
That is the most emotional speech I ever seen anybody put.
Right.
Them not having a proper ceremony as a king broke my heart. We
Mhm.
seen England had great monarchy to this day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Queen Elizabeth, the oldest woman that ever ran in
Mhm.
history,
Mhm.
had a beautiful ceremony. Agree or disagree? That's besides the point. But give them the rights where they earned that.
Mhm.
We didn't even give
Right.
that to
So
him.
what does the son do now? Is he involved in the political scene in Greece or is he
He
a
can get involved a lot more lately, and I'm not sure exact title to be honest with you. Not
Mhm.
Prince, not King. He has some kind of he's working on something. Um, but I know deep inside, knowing my mom and my grandparents told me he probably was killing him inside. He couldn't run his
Mhm.
country the way he was. The way his country came out to, it's killing him.
Mhm.
He
Now,
was
do a
like,
lot of people now, what was the general view of the I know there was a coup, but what was the general view of the king at the time? Was he popular with the with the
50-50.
with the
50-50 mixed.
50-50?
Yeah, like
Okay.
anywhere else. I talk to people in England. I know friends of mine. People are like, yeah, the king's a great thing. And yeah, hell Charles. The other people just like, I don't give a shit. He's an old
Okay.
dumbass. I'm
Okay,
like,
and that's probably gonna be worsened with younger generations as the further you get away from that. Because I was just
oh yeah.
wondering then if this son of his or his descendant ever decide to run for office, like let's say president of Greece or whatever, how much favor would he carry with maybe older people who may remember when he was the king, and then well, would he be a popular figure if he decided to get into some that would almost be like a like a comeback. So obviously you're not going to restore the kingdomship, but if he could be like a major leader in Greek politics or something like that, or even become the president of Greece eventually
So
someday, is that
he has
something that?
several
Yeah.
kids, and I know Prince, excuse me, Prince. I keep saying King. Apologize.
Hmm.
Prince Pavlo. He's big about all this stuff.
Hmm.
I'm not gonna lie to you, Paul. It'd be a great experience to get him on the show. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm gonna email
You
him.
pull
Fuck it.
that off, that
I'm gonna email him. I'm gonna email him.
we're
I don't
gonna
care. I'm gonna try.
we're gonna
I'm
draw
gonna try.
audience. We got to advertise that to everyone in Greece to say, look, we're gonna have the son of the deposed king of Greece on the gray area.
Wait,
We
I
would
have
make
a good idea. Hey, Josh, can you hook me up with him as an email or something? Because you work
yeah,
for the
Josh.
government.
Yes,
You know,
he's
you
got
got some
contacts. He
connections
might be able
there.
to pull that
You
off
know,
for us.
I will cook you Greek food if I have to pay you off somehow.
There you go. There you
Like,
go.
you
There
can't
you
get
go.
any more legit Greek than I am. But no,
Right.
seriously, King Pablo has he's known as one of the most sweetest men that ever stepped in the prince role. They say that's
Mhm.
how good he is.
Right.
They I have heard nothing negative. That's a weird. You hear negatives all the time, like Charles. He was a playboy, this and that. The other ones. No, nothing like that.
Right. All right.
Uh,
So last 15 minutes of the show. Again, thank you everyone for joining us for this evening's show. Again, if you enjoyed this conversation, again, you can see it scrolling at the bottom of your screen, our cash apps. If you want to give anything that you can contribute to us, we would greatly appreciate, but more so than us. If you'd like to give a cash app for the BMU network that makes this possible. Again, BMU network has weekly content, daily content, Monday through Sunday. He has content virtually every night for any given show. So he's given us this platform where we can have this conversation. So again, if you want to support the BMU network, yeah, you can do that via Cash App, or if you want to give something to us personally, you see our Cash Apps at the bottom of the screen. Again, so we greatly appreciate you guys riding with us tonight. So, want to bring this part of the discussion to a close as I think we start to get down to sort of final comments here. As succinctly as you can, is there anything that we didn't touch on so far about being in America, or maybe I should phrase it this way, that being from Greece that you absolutely reject? So, in other words, you're, proud Greek, proud American, but there's just something about whether it be Greek culture or Greek philosophy or how people, because we didn't even talk about certain part, like we touched a little bit on women. We didn't talk about marriage. We didn't talk about kids and family. Again, that may be something we may bring on in another show, but just something that you being here, that even though you're Greek and proud, there's just certain things that you just cannot embrace anymore. Um, because that's just the American in you that just doesn't allow you to go as hard on that as before. If anything, you speak personally on that, or if you know other Greek Americans, and there's just certain things that you know what, we're in America now, we're not doing that anymore. Like just that kind of mindset to say, we're not doing that. If I was in Greece, it might be different, but I'm here now. We're not doing that. Like what do you think some of the things may be that really start to distinguish Greeks in Greece from Greek Americans? Where is the divide that you would say that really separates these two peoples? And this could be for anyone, whether you be Irish American, Italian American, Indian American, African American, meaning that again you come from a nation state in Africa. Now you're here. What do you think, from your perspective? What do you think that is for yourself or for the average Greek person?
that is actually the only easy question you asked me all night.
Seriously,
Yes,
the only one?
yes, I can explain what. One thing I could
Oh,
never stand about Greeks, including myself, I do it sometimes because I'm an idiot. Very simple. Greeks are perfect in everything way. Everything that comes out of Greece is perfect and great. That's wrong. There are other things about other cultures are great too. From Spanish to African to Irish to Jamaican to Polish, whatever. There's a different every culture has great things and have goes wrong bad things. As a Greek, and that's one thing about it bothers me. Like we have the best gyro. Like, well, technically, we did not make the gyro, so we cannot say this us. We made it
mhm,
better.
mhm,
Or I like to hear Greeks always it was because during the Greek Empire it was the only reason yeah yeah yeah. I'm like, but it failed for a reason. Every
mhm,
empire failed for a reason. Roman, same thing.
mhm.
I'm not the only one who does that. Even Italians do that. Italians or Greek are
Yes,
so
yeah.
similar. Oh, everything's better in Italian. I'm like, I had a chef. I'm not joking, you dude. I almost laid him out. He goes, "You're fucking up because you're not Italian." I'm like, what the fuck is that supposed to mean? He goes, "You're Greek." Okay, so and we got it. I'm like, I'm like, dude, Tony, get out of my face before I lay you out. I'm not even joking, you bro. But that's what his go-to when somebody makes a mistake because you're not Italian.
Mhm,
And he was a real racist. He said it. I don't like you. I'm gonna fire you because you're not Italian. And I'm like, well, let's see how HR is gonna like that conversation because I just recorded the whole conversation, buddy.
oh, jeez.
So My point to that is that's the only thing I don't like. I'm not better than anybody. I'm me.
Mhm.
Do I have a proud background on me? Yes, very proud. Proud to be a Greek. I'm proud of what we became. I'm proud of what we did in the history. Doesn't change the fact I'm not perfect. Nobody is.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I rest there.
So you think a lot of Greeks still have like they have a lot of pride, or
Of
maybe
course.
an overinflation of their contributions to the world, which is a lot. You can't deny the contributions of Greek culture to certainly to Western society. Certainly those are things you can't deny. But I guess an overinflation of where it gets to maybe superiority or to that sort of mindset you see too often in native Greeks that you see less of in I guess Greek American like yourself or other Greek Americans. Can you name something else in the last 5 minutes here that might be like that major distinction? Like I said, especially here now. Again, Joshua did say something interesting earlier. Again, try being Greek after 3 generations. It's very hard. Now
Ooh.
you're now again I'm sure you know people who've been here for a minute. So you're talking about what the 1930s, 1940s, maybe, and we're at the third generation Greeks here. So is this something that you see? Is it possible to be a third generation Greek and maintain that here, or is it eventually all of you, just like all of us, we're going to become Americanized, just as the world, in many respects, is becoming Americanized, just with the power of the dollar. Don't be dissuaded by we got trillions of dollars in debt and all this other kind of stuff, but American influence is still something that's very prominent in a lot of cultures today. But is this inevitable? Where, as proud as you are, is your daughter, especially if you marry someone. Now you're not bound to necessarily marry a Greek woman, right? I mean, you marry pretty much anyone, or do you want your wife to be Greek? Is that your first preference? Not to say that you won't, but I'm saying, is she first preference? First, she gets the first call. All things being equal.
Okay, so I wouldn't say she has to be Greek. I prefer the Greek Orthodox part. I mean, not Greek. I'm going to refer to that the Christian Orthodox.
Right,
The
right, right.
religion thing is more
Okay.
important to me than her being Greek.
Then her ethnic
Yeah,
her
that's
ethnic
more
background.
important to me. Now, if I get both packages, so she can have a conversation with him, my mother, and my other Greek family, yeah, cool. I'm great with
Right,
that because
right.
again, I don't have a lot of family. My mother, I have a very very small family, like not
You
like
right,
most
you don't have
Greeks.
that large. You don't have that large social work. All right. So again, shout out to Na. Ken, you came into the conversation tonight. Again, thank you for visiting us tonight. Joshua's putting us. I got $20 that says he goes for a Greek wife, a traditional Greek wife. So he's had you
I'm not saying he's wrong there.
right. So he's already putting it in that you're going for the traditional woman. But to that end, is it? Do you think that is it? Uh, Oh, she now he's trolling again. He says small family. Okay, now I question his Greekness. I guess Greeks usually have big families, so you still got time though, Joshua. Give him some time. He's still working it out. One of the shows we had. I don't know if you were on that one, Joshua. You talked about now in Greece. Again, correct me if I'm wrong. You said the average age someone gets married is about like 35, right?
Yeah,
35
around
and
there. Yeah.
around there. So he's still got some time to make up for lost time and have have a quiver full of kids if he wants to.
Let me add a
But
little to that. What you said, 35 too. Some it depends. Some factors too. Also, if you're a
mhm,
woman, you want to maybe get in your career first before you find the right guy, that stuff.
sure.
So there are factors too. Like that 35 could be 36, 37. It could be up and down. It's more common that women in Greece will have kids older than younger.
Mhm. Gotcha. But what do you think? So just in closing, okay. So again, getting back to my last question here, uh, really Joshua's question. So again, 3 generations now. I mean, is it possible to still be Greek and in America, or is the destiny for most Greek Americans is to become Americans, and that you just get further and further away disconnected from from that base, or is that link is always going to be there? And if so, what's gonna be the thing that, if there is going to be a preservation of Greek culture in the future for those who live in the United States, what's it going to be?
That's a hard answer because I don't know how to answer that because I'm not there.
Okay.
I seen people who are not fourth, third, no, not say third, not even fourth, maybe sixth generation. They're further back. They go, they hear I'm Greek. Like, how coworker of mine. She goes, "Oh my god, you're Greek." I'm like, yeah, like my husband is like percentage Greek. I'm like, oh, how, no, if I'm Greek, I don't know, huh? I don't
Yeah.
know. And like it's so little. Like because of its generation, it kind of gets less and less and less and less.
Mm.
And I hear friend of mine, good examples because we're talking about that. Like, and she never knew I was Greek. Like, how do you not know I'm Greek? I went to her. I'm like, the big name doesn't give it away. And
Hmm.
she goes, I have a little Greek in me. Like, I went to her. I'm not joking you, but like, there's so many dirty jokes, and I cannot even go where to start.
Mm.
But I went to her and like, where from? She knew where she was from, but she never been there. She doesn't know anything. Just she knew she was part from Kriti. That's all she know.
Hmm. Right.
Again, that is up to you as your parents and as a person. You want to pass down the information from next generation to next generation. Me, my kid, yeah, they're gonna know where they're from. They're gonna visit Greece. Now it's their job to do the same thing for their kids.
Right.
That's all I have on that one.
Gotcha.
That's the best I
Gotcha.
have, actually.
Yeah, I hear you. And again, as Joshua again is spitting more gems tonight. No one has a crystal ball in terms of where this is gonna
Mm-hmm.
where this is gonna go. But again, I just find that the topic fascinating, especially when I speak to people again in their 50s. You've been in the United States for a while. In fact, I again, back to my friends from India again. They were telling me that there's certain communities, because a lot of folks, when they're older, they do have intention. Now, again, I don't know if it's like that for every culture, but a lot of them do have intention to move back to India at some point in time when they retire and they have, all their affairs in order, and they want to move back. They're building in India communities that mirror American communities, meaning shopping malls and different spots, that the way the homes look. Because again, they're so used now to America, now going back to India. They're not going back to the smaller homes or the crowded communities as elsewhere. So they're building like literally these suburban neighborhoods in India for people to go back to. So it helps them to bridge the gap. So they're not going back to something that's oh so dramatically different. I mean, again, it is a populous country, so a billion and a half people over there. So they're actually thinking about they're actually thinking about how to bridge that gap so it's not such a culture shock them going back. So
Mm-hmm.
so again they're Americanizing in some parts of India to make those expats who are now moving back to the country more comfortable when they go back. But it's definitely something that, again, regardless of where you come from, this is a conversation. I've had several of these conversations, and like I said, usually I see it with the kids. Just how drastic the kids are in terms of the first thing that changes is language. That's like the immediate thing that changes is the language. Then it comes down to values. Then it comes down to goals and expectations. And these are things that really you see with the next generation. So as Josh was saying, it's going to be hard to kind of maintain this over time. But I just find the journey that people of today versus people 100 years ago. Again, they came here to assimilate. They took on different names. They stopped speaking their language in a lot of instances. They spoke English in the house because they wanted their children to learn English very fast because they felt that it was essential to their uh, uh, survival if they want to be in America to adopt. They joined military service if they were able to. They really did a lot of things to really, um, Americanize and carry that forward with the expectation that it would mean a better life for their children. Nowadays, again, people are definitely a bit more feeling that they can keep more of their ethnic pride and their traditions and their language and their culture with them, that they don't have to leave it at the border when they come into the country. Whether or not that's going to be good or not or for America or not long term. Again, there's a debate about that in terms of the idea of the country becoming more nationalistic. I know there was debates in the past about should English be the official language of the English is still not the official language of the country. I mean, it's not. There have been efforts to want to, even though for all intents and purposes it is, but there have been efforts to nationalize English as the language of the country that have been shut down for one reason or another. And that is something. So I'm just going to be curious to see how future populations. So for the Greeks that are coming now, is it easier for them to come here now, knowing that you have these established Greek communities that sustain them, or was it harder for the people who came the first time? So these are questions that I wanted to ponder tonight, and I wanted to certainly get your perspective. So again, I thank you, Grooming, for sharing your personal stories and from what you know from your perspective, because again, you're only one person, but from your perspective, coming from a Greek culture, again, there's only so much I can add to that conversation just based on my history. So again, I kind of live vicariously through another culture, through Asian Indians, since I'm very familiar, to share, to give some clarity and content. We would love to do another show on something like this where we have people from other ethnicities. Again, the more ethnic you are, the more diverse background that you come from, different value set, different path for you. We would love to hear your stories. So, you can certainly be free to reach out to us, reach out to the BMU network. And if you would like to be a participant in an upcoming show, because this isn't just an American Greek conversation. The purpose of this show, why the gray area was put together, is again, we want to find the common area. The gray area means the common areas. Here's a black and white man, for all intents and purposes. But here we are trying to find that commonality that's shared amongst peoples. And so, we want to have the conversation with a variety of different people looking for that common ground in the conversation. That's really the purpose of the show. So we certainly were welcoming that. And again, so as we close, any last thoughts on your end, Grooming, before we close out the show tonight?
Keep an open mind in whatever you do. Keep an open mind in.
Awesome. Appreciate it. Thank you again to the chat. Again, Joshua Jones, very good to meet you tonight. Again, he says he had already invited me. So again, appreciate for the BMU community sharing this content, sharing, hey, we're doing this sort of content here. And, certainly we appreciate you guys being part of this conversation. And again, this is a conversation. We're not here to debate. We're not here to say who's better or what have you. We're just trying to share and have because we think one of the biggest problems in the world is that people don't talk to each other enough.
Yeah,
and listen to one another. So we want to have this conversation for deeper understanding of who we are as human beings and how we can break some of the barriers that are keeping people divided in our tribal settings. But we appreciate you guys in the chat. Joshua Jones, we certainly appreciate you for being here tonight, for giving a lot of interesting perspective in the chat. Hopefully, maybe in an upcoming show, we can bring you up, especially when we have one of our open lives. We're trying to have an open live at least once a month. So maybe if you could join us on the show when we're going to have an open mic, if you want to come up and share some of your perspectives, which again, just based on your background, seems like you would be able to add some very positive content to this conversation. So, but for everyone, again, have a safe week. Enjoy your week. Be safe out there. And until we see each other again, I'm Mr. Bennett. He is Grooming and Reviews, aka the Ghost of Sparta, aka Peter, aka This is the Gray Area. We'll see you next time. Take care and good night.
Subscribe now.